Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to my series on art direction. Last episode I asked for feedback and the response I got was absolutely fantastic. We've got 3 clear designs to go on with, which are 1, 5 and 6, but with some notable changes and a couple of best bits from the others taking inspiration. One of the main things I'm going to be working on in each of these concepts is defining the background and the platform a bit better. So I'm going to add a couple more details into the backgrounds, bring a bit more character into them. I'm also going to make sure they stand out a lot more. So in this stage, I must warn, things do get a little bit messy. As I'm adding layers and layers of feedback, it can all just build up, but it's a very important stage. So you just gotta look past the mess and use a bit of imagination for it, because these will be taken through to a mock-up, which is basically taking these and polishing them all up, taking the best bits and making something that works. I'm also taking the opportunity to look at the original game screenshots, and I'm trying to make sure that they are sticking closer to what is required in the design brief. So a lot of that will be straightening up platforms and just making it sure it will work as a final product without changing the game itself too much. Like in the last episode, I'm trying a couple of ideas that might not work, but it's always just worth to try, especially at this stage where it doesn't matter if it gets a little bit messy. I also want to be considering how these are going to work in their appropriate styles. So right now they're a little bit more like theming concepts, but I'll take the elements that are stylized and just run with them a bit more. When I'm picking a style, sometimes it can happen quite organically like this, where I just let the concepts, depict what it will be. But other times it's nice to take reference and just come up with your own interpretation of it. But that doesn't have to be from games, it can be from illustration or animation or anything that is art. I suppose the key is to play on your strengths and the rest will come. But that doesn't mean that you have to stick to one style. You can use what you know from something and use it to create something new. For instance, you could be used to pixel art, but you could take the geometric and the shading techniques that you know from that and apply them to something vectored. So going back to the concepts, I'm now trying to add some Cthulhu sort of Lovecraftian elements into this. So tentacles would be spikes. I think it would give a bit more of a dungeon feel, because that was one of the issues that I had with this concept, is it just felt like an underwater cavern. The game is, after all, called Super Dungeon Escape, so if I'm failing that, it's just not going to fit. So the platforms that this did have were a little bit too uneven and would take a lot of tiles to create, which wasn't great if I wanted any procedural elements or auto tiling, as that would take a long time to implement and probably have performance issues. So I'm straightening them up to something that would be a bit more friendly, and it also fits the theme a bit more. It's a bit more dungeon-like, but I am of course trying to add some jagged edges and chips in the rock just to break it up, because it still needs some character. I'm also wanting to add some more colours to the platforms and some material variation. So any platforms that aren't kind of on the wall, I'm going to use like a brass-like colour, so something similar to the anchors. Almost like it could be found on a rusty ship, going with that kind of Lovecraftian feel, as if it's been swallowed up. The concept is quite cramped now, but it's still giving me enough to go off when I go to create the final mockups for these. It's all about just getting the ideas on and seeing what works, as I've said. Up until this point, it doesn't even matter if you're very good at drawing, because it is rough and you're just getting ideas out there. At this point, I'm trying to work out how the assets are going to work in game as well. So a lot of it will be tile based. And things like the seaweed and vines and whatnot, that'll be sprites placed over the top. And then things like the tentacles, I think would be sprites as well, but it would be quite nice to have them animated. So it could be a frame by frame animation or something done in spine or just a warp effect placed on them. Sometimes it just takes a couple of animated assets to bring a whole level to life. Remember, the main thing you're doing is trying to tell a story throughout this. All we know from in brief is that the character is locked in a dungeon and must escape. So how the character got there, why it's escaping, and how it's escaping even, can all be part of it, and these things can be told throughout the level design, so it's always worth considering this. Following what I mentioned before, I'm trying to add some more background elements. So I'm going to be adding like a background wall that should give it a bit more depth, because right now it just looks like it's on a flat plate. So if then I could do something that will fix that, all the better. The only thing with elements like this is I need to make sure the player would know that they can walk through it. So placing things like coins over it, or whatever the collectible would be, can be a really good way of showing that. I'm also having to use quite a heavy amount of shading to show that it's quite set back from the platforms, but always if it's not working, then it's worth trying something else, but I think for this it seems to be working. I mentioned animated objects, so for this concept I'm going to try some cogs, so these could be spinning in the background, like slowly turning, just brings a bit of life to it. I probably do need to consider some more colour variation with this, because right now it is just brass, so later I'll add a couple of elements that bring some more colour into it. I'm still not convinced that I'll be able to do the curved background wall for this, but I do like how it looks, so it's something I'm going to try achieve. I think I might be able to do it with some kind of renderer, so it renders it around a cylinder, but we'll have to see. Now I'm bringing in a good contrasting metal colour, so it's kind of a bluish shade, so I'm going to be doing some chains and maybe some other elements. It looks like I'm able to fit that blue colour into the platforms quite well, or even just a different material. It seems to be quite nice to have a brass wrapped around it, but for now I'll keep it blue. I want to try add some more weathering effects, so rust that could be spreading on the platforms and like some dripping water and stuff, so it makes it feel more like a well. But these are something that I'm yet to tackle quite well, so I'll keep working on that. As well as visually bringing the level to life, it's good to start thinking about what kind of sound effects and ambience will be in play. So like the turning of the cogs, the sound of the character jumping on the metal platforms, even jumping past the chains, so a kind of a rustling sound, the odd drip drip from the top of a well, just little things that help bring the scene to life. One of the elements that I'm not too keen on with this level are the sidewalls, so I'm going to try and make something a bit more chunky for these. Like, the colour's quite good, I just think we need a bit more definition. Another thing to note with the sound effects is in the second concept, I quite like that there's two different materials for the platforms, so like a metal sound and a stone sound. It always helps with that game feel. With some final tweaks to the water, this just about finishes this stage of concepting. So next episode, I'm going to be moving on to the mockups. This will mean taking these ideas and just polishing them on top of a actual scene from the game. So it really helps to look, right, here is how these will look. I'm also going to be defining the styles in them a bit more, putting a bit more time into the rendering of them. So overall, it just really helps when you go on to make the final assets. It gives a bit of a template to work off. Like always, if you have any feedback for the videos or any comments on the designs themselves, any suggestions, or even if you have any questions about the process, just let me know in the comments. Please remember to like and subscribe because it really helps get the videos out there for other people to watch. See you next episode. Bye!